Well, it seems that the election campaigns for the upcoming general elections in Trinidad and Tobago are in full swing. Even though Prime Minister Keith Rowley has not signaled exactly which date the upcoming general elections will be on, we do know that they will be not later than 2025, as is constitutionally required. But the parties are in full gear, vetting candidates that they would like to contest the various ridings and trying to ensure that they're set up for the most success possible. So one of the things that will be coming out, and the UNC has signaled this with the release of their manifesto today, are what platforms they're running on. But here's the problem. I can't personally remember any instance off the top of my head, and I'm not saying that it hasn't happened before, but I personally can't remember any instance, but I do hope this changes, is that I don't see any fully costed election platforms being released. Those are extremely important for a voter to be able to make an informed decision and to place their support behind a party at the polls. So I've got my notes here to tell you a little bit more about what a fully costed election platform is and why it's important. So a fully costed election platform is essentially a detailed plan that is released by a political party during an election campaign, and it outlines their proposed policies and initiatives along with the estimated costs associated with implementing them. So typically these platforms would include things like policy proposals, cost estimates, any revenue sources that they're attempting to generate revenue from, as well as, very importantly, an economic impact. So you may be thinking that those already raises red flags, because in the news we have lots of instances in Trinidad and Tobago now where money is flowing and money is intended to start flowing, and we need to understand how exactly that's going to impact us and how it's going to benefit us. Just today in the news, we're hearing the Minister Donna Cox talking about the grants and pensions. So these are things that is going to be particularly of note for the aging population, right? Who's funding our older years? So here's how a fully costed election platform helps a campaign. Transparency and credibility is at the top of the list here. So this shows voters that the party has thought through proposals in detail, and it's got a realistic plan to implement them. So this level of transparency increases a party's credibility. Would you have thought differently if Keith Rowley signaled many moons ago that he was going to change the coat of arms and there'd be a massive price tag attached to it? We may not have known then, but we do know now. And if I were running for office, if I was Mrs. Kamala Persad Bissessar, I'd be putting that into a fully costed election campaign, because just say for argument's sake, the UNC takes the majority whenever the elections come up, they're going to have to deal with this. They're going to have to deal with the fallout. There's already a massive cost of doing business. Just to even talk about changing the coat of arms. They're on the clock every single day doing their day-to-day job. It's already costing money to deal with this. So can you imagine if they come into power and they're left with this mess? They have to figure out how they're going to pay for it. And they're going to have to answer to the public, any members of the public who do not support this, why they're going to still have to foot the bill. They're going to have to talk about the lasting impacts of such a huge decision. So that leads me to number 2, which is trust building. So when you clearly outline where the money is going to come from and how it will be spent, the party can attempt to build trust with its voters who may be wary of vague promises. Doesn't that sound familiar? Right now, the voting population in Trinidad and Tobago is very tired of the political landscape. They are tired of slogging it through. They are tired of false promises. You're going to see more and more instances on social media where people are posting up candidates saying, "What are you doing here? I haven't seen you for X number of years. You only come around when you want my vote." So this is why trust building is so important when you do things like issue a fully costed party platform. It signals that you actually care and you care in advance. So number 3, political differentiation. I'll be honest with you, this is my personal opinion. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago, it doesn't appear that there's too much to differentiate each political party from. Because at the end of the day, the web has been so tangled that you couldn't separate the issues from one party to the next if you tried. We are all in this mess together. The way the country has been designed, and a lot of things have been set up for failure, you do not have differentiation between each party when it comes to the issues. Nobody can even attempt to bring in anything new until they deal with messes that have already been made, and they're dealing with the residual effects on that. So let's use Gary Griffith as an example. He's the leader of the NTA. For him to run as prime minister, people are going to have to sit there and reflect on his time, not only as Minister of National Security, but as the former Commissioner of Police. They're going to take those preconceived notions of Gary Griffith and line it up against him when he goes out to run for leadership of the country. Michaela Pandey is a fantastic example of this. She always has the Basteo Pandey badge on her. She is the daughter of a former prime minister. She has UNC written all over her, even though she's the head of the Patriotic Front. So I don't think that there's too much separating the wheat from the chaff right now. I think they're all the same. I do think, though, that some are more personable, some are more approachable, like Michaela is out there door knocking. You will never see Prime Minister Keith Rowley out there door knocking. So at this point, it's sort of pick your poison. So the fourth point about why a fully costed election platform is important is because of reducing criticism. So particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a daily bun fight that these politicians are in. Have you ever watched Parleview and see how they go at each other's throats and when they meet? It's pretty disgusting. So they often attack each other, and particularly their uncosted policies as unrealistic or irresponsible. So by providing this, a party can preempt those attacks, or attempt to at least. And then with respect to the media and public focus, I know right now it's often seen that the media has a very difficult time getting straight answers out of the government and the ministers and the prime minister. They get shut down. So a fully costed platform will give them a clear and substantive document, not only to discuss and put facts out into the public space, but also to help focus the campaigns on policy issues rather than the umpteenth scandal that erupts for the day. So, in general, everyone, fully costed platforms help campaigns by enhancing credibility and building voter trust. We absolutely need to have faith and trust in our political parties in Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to fail. We're going to fail miserably. We're not going to have a great quality of life. We're not going to improve our standard of living if these people don't come out and talk about how they're going to make our life better and exactly what it's going to cost us.